Introduce the commissioner, let me tell you a little bit about how we're going to do this. If you are joining us on the phone and you want to ask a question to the commissioner, you can dial *3 and that'll put you through to an operator. If you're watching online, you can type a question into the comments box and we will read them as they come up once we've opened it up to an open discussion. I'm also going to ask the people on the phone a couple of polling questions a little bit later. And if you are on the phone and want to watch the video of this, we will have a PowerPoint presentation, and you can do that on our Facebook page or at arapahoegov.com/town hall. We also will be providing a recording of this within about 24 hours of the event. So with that, I'd like to introduce District 4 Commissioner Nancy Jackson.
Thank you, Luke, and welcome everyone. I would say it's nice to see you. I can't see you, unfortunately, but I hope you are all well. Again, we want to thank you for joining us. It's been just an amazing 2021 and a very productive 2021. And now this year, the Board of County Commissioners has got an even longer to-do list, which I'm going to share with you in just a little bit. I can get my face in the middle of the camera here. It's got an even longer to-do list, and we're also, as Luke said, going to talk to you about our health department. I don't want to make you sneeze. Okay, sorry about that. So let's get started with the next slide. So let's start with a look ahead to what we're planning to do in 2022. First of all, we'll kick that off with a big thank you for all of those of you who voted for our open space and sales tax that we had on the ballot last year. That passed overwhelmingly, and so now we're going to be able to maintain and expand and improve our whole range of open spaces, assets, and amenities. So we're looking forward to all of that. And in addition, here comes the list, we will carry on the things that we do every year, including aid to agencies and our youth awards, National Adoption Day, our CSU programming, our registered apprenticeship program, workforce development, and all the other amazing programs that we bring you. We're going to begin the process of our next initiatives by reframing the 18th Judicial District. And that will be completed in 2025. As you might remember, there was a bill in the legislature a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where it was decided that the 18th Judicial District, the largest district by population in the state, will be divided into Arapahoe County, will be the 18th, will be us. Just our county, and then the 23rd district will be Douglas County, Lincoln, and Elbert. So that will be completed in 2025, and in 2024, a new DA will have to be elected. The second thing on our plate this year is going to be completing the allocations for our ARPA dollars, and we're using those dollars to support vulnerable populations, area businesses, nonprofits, and also replacing some county revenue that was lost due to the pandemic. So we are very active in working with all of our stakeholders and our nonprofits and businesses to allocate those dollars. We are going to refine and expand our programs and regional partnerships around homelessness, addiction, suicide, and domestic violence prevention. We're going to determine how best to use the funds that we will receive from the opioid settlement. All right, next slide. We're going to further implement our board strategic plan that we created a couple of years ago, and we're going to focus on safety, health and welfare, and increased engagement with our communities and partners. We have a new DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion program that we're working on. We've made connections with the Arapahoe County Tribe, which is really exciting for us, and we will be addressing the county's aging infrastructure. We're going to also execute the next phases of our transportation master plan and the open spaces master plan, both of which set comprehensive visions and goals for those departments well into the future. And those can be found on our website if you're interested. We're going to oversee the primary election in June, and then there'll be another election, a general election in November. So clerk and recorder's office will be very, very busy. We're going to run the 2022 fair, the county fair, on the heels of last year's record-breaking county fair. We had more people than we could handle. And it was a great fair, so we're working to make sure that we'll have enough room for everybody this year. We're going to manage the commissioner redistricting process now that the Senate and the House and the precincts have all been kind of settled out. Now we'll be working on the commissioner districts. They will be moving a little bit to the east as the population has moved. And that'll be completed by September 2023. We are going to continue to advocate for the issues that we all care about with the state legislature. So that's an ongoing process as well. So those are some of the things that we're going to be doing this year. But one of the biggest ones, and the one that I think many people are interested in, is our main topic for tonight, which is our health department. So next slide. So right now, we're in the early stages of planning. We're defining and prioritizing services. So Tri-County Health does a whole lot of different things, and we're trying to figure out what actually services do they provide and understanding them and prioritizing them. We've actually contracted with a Colorado public health consulting group called Ottawa, and they're helping us along with Tri-County Health subject matter experts, and we're really working hard to try to understand how Tri-County Health works, how a health department works as we move into this transition. Next slide. So the overall process will focus on these three goals that you can see. And so we're really in the early part of this. And so we're building an understanding of the current public health services and programs. So we need to know what legally are we obligated to do, and what kinds of programs are optional. And we're assessing all the best practices of not only Tri-County Health, but we're looking to other counties in Colorado, as well as nationally. What do good public health departments look like? What programs do they have? And so on. So we're evaluating all this current and potential funding streams as well. So Tri-County Health has got a number of different funding streams, all kinds of grants, all kinds of different kinds of programs. And so we've got state, federal, and other kinds of funding sources. So we have to kind of figure that out. And we also have to figure out the governance. What are our options for governance? And of course, we have to follow state statute. So what is required of a health department in terms of governance? And then what would be best for Arapahoe County? So during all of this, we really seek to provide updates to all of our constituents, all of our different stakeholders throughout the process. We're going to educate the public, that's kind of what we're doing now, about the legal requirements behind our decision making. So why are we making the choices that we're going to make? Well, we hope to keep you kind of along with us so you understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're going to encourage you, residents, to share your input and your feedback on your expectations and your needs. What do you want from your public health department? We're going to provide clear details about the services provided by the health department and how they can be accessed, as well as provide specifics about how the county services will be met under our new health department. So all of this takes quite a bit of time, a lot of analysis. There's at least 3 or 4 meetings a week of different groups of people kind of working through this. So finally, we want to demonstrate how we're striving to be a fiscally responsible and innovative partner in public health. So next slide is our timeline. Thank you. So this is kind of how we're going to go about this. This timeline kind of helps us organize our work, and we've kind of created some work streams to keep us organized and to keep the process moving along. You can see on this slide where each aspect of public health administration will kind of figure into our planning. So again, we're working with the consultants, we're working with Tri-County health experts, subject matter experts, to kind of untangle all of this and then put together what our health department will look like. So by the end of Q1, we hope to have a conceptual idea of what a single county health department would look like. And that includes, the programs and the organization. In Q2, we'll finalize how to provide programs and services and settle on some kind of governance model. Q3, we'll start to implement. And in Q4, we'll continue implementation with the goal of going live at the beginning of 2023. So we've got a year, and it's a huge project that, believe me, we're working diligently. So next slide. So next steps. We're currently scheduling in-person and virtual engagement options with each stakeholder. So again, we're doing more town halls like this one. Each of the commissioners is doing a town hall like this one. We'll have also countywide town halls. Whatever is needed, we will go where there are questions, and we will do our best to answer them. We're planning to set up a number of listening sessions with different audiences, and we hope that you will have ample opportunities to give us your feedback. We've got a web presence that's just kind of beginning that will kind of expand as we move along, and that website is arapahoegov.com/health. So arapahoegov.com/health. Next slide. So that's a quick summary of how we hope all this is going to work. Please sign up to receive updates about the health department process and all the county news. You can visit our Board of County Commissioner page at arapahoegov.com. arapahoegov.com. And so now, Luke, I think it's time for us to open it up for questions.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Commissioner. What we're going to do here, just to remind everyone, if you're on the phone, you can dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator, and that'll put you in the line to ask the commissioner a question. You can ask about the county business, about the health department. It's pretty open. Obviously, we're here primarily for the health stuff, but we can answer questions about anything the commissioner talked about tonight. And then if you want to submit a question online, you can type that into the comments box, and I will read that as they come up. Before we get to your questions, I'd like to ask those of you on the phone our first polling question, and that is how you feel about living in Arapahoe County. So if you're on the phone and you would be very likely to recommend living in Arapahoe County to someone else, press 1. Press 2 if you'd be somewhat likely. Press 3 if you're neutral. Press 4 if you're somewhat unlikely. And press 5 if you're very unlikely. Again, how likely would you be to recommend living in Arapahoe County to someone else? 1 is very likely. 2 is somewhat likely. 3 is somewhat unlikely. I'm sorry, 3 is neutral. 4 is somewhat unlikely. And 5 is very unlikely. And I will give you some results to that in a little bit and then ask you a second polling question. Before we get into, we're having some people get queued up here for the questions on the phone. Commissioner, one of the things I wanted to ask is, in our initial stages of learning about all this from the Ottawa group, and by the way, the Ottawa group is OTOWI, and this is a consultant that we hired to help us steer us through all this. Really, we started working with them, I believe, last summer when it became clear that we would need a new model of some kind with the health department. Commissioner, how did we select the Ottawa group as the one we wanted to work with?
Well, we interviewed a number of, we put out an RFP, and asked for submissions. We got several different submissions. We looked at their qualifications, and then we interviewed a number of them. We liked this group because of the depth of their public health experience. In fact, one of the people that we work with weekly teaches public health here in, I think it's the University of Colorado. So they're very well informed in terms of public health, and they're local. So we like that. We like that, they can come to meetings in person.
Mm-hmm.
When we need them. So there were a number of reasons why we liked them best, but we did do a thorough national search, and they were our favorites. And it's been proven true. They're very good facilitators. These are very complex matters. They're able to explain things to us and help us understand what the issues are. They also have a national kind of outlook, so they can say, well, in some places they do it this way, in other places they do it that way. And so it's been very, very helpful to have them.
Well, and the local thing is probably extra beneficial, given like you mentioned, this is not just a meeting every once in a while. This is a lot of meetings with a lot of different stakeholder groups as we go through this process. So, and also, as the commissioner mentioned, we're doing this introduction to the health department creation process with all 5 commissioners over the next couple of weeks in their respective districts. We are also going to have a county-wide virtual town hall on March 30th, which is going to include all 5 commissioners and probably some other guests that will be able to give us kind of our first big update about where everything is in this process. So with that in mind, let's start with our first question from a caller. This is Sarah, and she wants to know about the health department. So Sarah, you're on.
Yes. What are you going to do with the potential of future problems with COVID and viruses that have reached the level of necessity that this has, to counteract anything that the federal government imposes and politics impose on the reaction that people have toward dealing with the problem? I believe we can no longer rely, since there's so much social media, online, et cetera, politics has corrupted it. We can no longer rely on the federal government and the country as a whole to lead us in the right direction. And I believe that the public health department locally could play a huge role in this by reaching out to individuals in a very effective way to deal with it responsibly and realistically and believe in science once again.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for your comments. In some ways, I'm with you on that. I think it's really a shame that we have that politics has entered into our health discussions. But what we can do is make sure that when we set up a health department, we look to public health experts and make sure that they are. First of all, we don't get to hire everybody. Once we set up a health department, there will be a medical person, and there will be a director. We have to appoint a board of health, and that board of health will select a director, and then that director will be hiring all the folks in that department. But we will ensure that that board of health understands what the issues are, and when we appoint them, that they understand the importance of non-political science and public health.
And just to follow up on that, Commissioner, this came up a little bit last night as well with Commissioner Sharp. Um, the whole concept of local control is one of the things that's driving the change in our public health structure here. So, we had a 3-county partnership that lasted for more than 50 years, and now we're looking at a single county district. I think one of the opportunities there is how are we going to tailor this more specifically to Arapahoe County? What sort of discussions have you had around that so far?
We haven't gotten that far, Luke, to tailor anything particular to us. So I really can't answer that question at this point. But it is clear that our mission is to do an assessment of what are our needs here in Arapahoe County, and uh, at least set up the initial health department in a way that responds to the needs of the folks in our county.
Okay.
But we really are in the beginning part of this, so that's why at the town hall, the countywide town hall, we hope to have at least a few more answers. This is really at the very, very beginning.
Right, right. We're still gathering a lot of the information and setting up meetings with some of these stakeholders and so forth.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to our next question. This is an online question. Well, and tell me if this doesn't make sense. This is not familiar to me. Will Arapahoe County use the current Tri-County Health Improvement Plan or create a new plan?
So,
I think yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I know that there is such a thing. I don't know the detail of it. We at the county commissioners will not get into that kind of detail, as far as I know, into the inner workings of our new health department. So I can't really speak to yes or no as to whether we would or not. It seems to me that an improvement plan that was based on 3 counties may not fit for 1 county. So more than that, I cannot say. I would say that might be a topic that we discuss in our weekly meetings.
Right. And I think it is safe to say that one of our main objectives is to create a first-class public health department with whatever best practices we decide are needed, right?
Oh, definitely.
Great. Before we get to another question, let me just remind you, if you're on the phone and want to talk to the commissioner live, you can dial *3 and that'll put you through to an operator. If you're watching online, you can type a question into the comments box, as some of you have already. Let me give you the answers to our first polling question, which was on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend living in Arapahoe County to someone else? 62% of you are very likely to recommend it. 19 are somewhat likely to recommend it, 19%. 11% of you are neutral. 3% are somewhat unlikely to recommend it, and 5% are very unlikely. To those of you who fall on the less likely side of the ledger there, we'd love to hear from you about what sort of things would make you more or less likely to recommend someone else live here. I suspect, given our past conversations, growth might have something to do with that. Cost of living might have something to do with that, but we'd love to hear from you about that. You can do that by sending an email to communicationsservices@arapahoegov.com. We always want to hear input from the public. So with that in mind, another online question here. There's been a huge increase in the need for mental health services during the pandemic. Will the new health department make that a priority?
So I can't say, because we don't have a health department yet. However, I will tell you that it is of utmost top of mind for the commissioners. And I myself serve on a mental health board and have been very active in that field for years, and know how important it is for everybody, kids as well as grown-ups. And so I'm sure that that will be one of the components that we ask for in our new health department. But again, we're so so much at the beginning of things. I cannot say, what percentage or any of that kind of thing, but it will be on our list. That is absolutely for sure.
And it's always, as you mentioned, this has been an issue that's been close to your heart for your whole career, and it's certainly also a big focus of the American Relief Plan spending that we're going to be doing this year that we've already done some of.
Yeah, we work very closely with the mental health organizations in our county. There are several of them. There's 2 big community health centers and also some sort of independent behavioral health organizations, and we work very closely with all of them. Our human services departments and other departments are so we're very familiar with the need.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask the second polling question here. Once again, if you're on the phone and want to ask a question, just dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator. Or you can type a question into a comments box if you're watching us online. The second polling question is, how satisfied are you about the interactions that you've had with the Arapahoe County government specifically? So press 1 if you've been very satisfied. Press 2 if you've been somewhat satisfied. Press 3 if you're neutral or it's not applicable because you haven't had any interactions with us. Press 4 if you've been somewhat dissatisfied, and press 5 if you've been very dissatisfied. Once again, how satisfied have you been about your interactions with the Arapahoe County government? 1 is very satisfied, 2 is somewhat satisfied, 3 is neutral or not applicable, 4 is somewhat dissatisfied, and 5 is very dissatisfied. And again, I'll give you those results shortly. Before we go to the next question, sort of related to what we just talked about with mental health, can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives the county is pursuing this year with regard to dealing with the homeless situation around the communities?
You bet. So a couple of years ago, I started a kind of informal group of providers and others who were very interested in this issue of homelessness. We noticed along the Highline Canal, along various parks and so on, that we're seeing more and more homeless people. So we started a couple years ago in talking about this issue, in sharing resources, talking about best practices. We had law enforcement involved in this so that we could share resources with them as well. And now we are standing up, I think the kickoff is in a week or so, with an official county-wide homelessness group to work with the elected officials, with the technical folks, and really discuss how we can alleviate this. I'm not sure we can get rid of it, but certainly how we can kind of alleviate some of the misery and the complexity of this issue. Arapahoe County doesn't have enough money to build all the housing that would be needed, and that's not really our role. But we can, we do have a lot of services that we can provide, and we do have some resources that we can share. So we're working very hard on that. We also have ARPA funds, that government funding that came through, and with that we will be working with other homelessness initiatives to provide some housing. And then I just want to mention, we've spent already over $1 million of ARPA funds and other relief funds on eviction prevention, both in terms of rent reimbursement and helping people with their mortgages so that they don't become homeless. So we're working in a lot of different parts of the county to do what we can to alleviate this problem.
And this comes up quite frequently on these kind of events. One of the things we always try to stress, and Commissioner, maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, is sort of the regional nature of these partnerships and how it's not just one city working on its own homeless program. It's all cities and counties working together. That seems to be a much more effective approach in the long run. Is that what we're hoping for?
Absolutely. So it needs to be regional, because what happens is when an encampment, for example, or even a single person is moved along, whether it's cleaned up or just moved along, then where do they go? Well, they go to the next town or city. So I'd like to use the analogy of the Highland Canal, because people, it's like a highway for folks who are homeless, and they move along from one jurisdiction to another. And so there's no boundaries um, on this issue. They move from Adams County or Denver, or Englewood to Littleton to Sheridan to Centennial to Aurora, back and forth and back and forth. So we have to work together. Um, it's There's no fences in this area.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely an area problem, not just a community problem.
Now
Just to give you the
there's a
results.
couple of,
I'm
I
sorry.
was
Say
going
again.
to there's a couple of programs that we're working with regionally. There's the Ridgeview um, Center out east of Watkins State, and Aurora and Arapahoe County are looking at that as a place that we can do some substance abuse treatment and some sort of short-term housing for folks. We have a number of different kinds of shelters that we're contributing to, and so there's a lot that's going on in that arena. But it has to, as you say, it has to be regional.
Absolutely. Before I give you the results of the second polling question, we had an online question here asking how to find the comments from the poll questions. We don't actually have a way to capture those. That's why I'm inviting the people to email us at communicationservices@arapahoegov.com. We can share these on future, the reasons for less satisfaction with the county on future calls. Anecdotally speaking, and based on past experience, my guess is that things like cost of living and congestion, traffic congestion and growth are the reasons that people may not have as sunny a view of the county. But as you can see from the results, the vast majority of people are very happy living in Arapahoe County, which we always love to hear. To give you an idea of how your interactions have been with the Arapahoe County government, 30% of you have said you've been very satisfied with your interactions with us. 27% say you've been somewhat satisfied. 40% are neutral or it's not applicable. 3% say you've been somewhat dissatisfied, and nobody so far has said that they've been very dissatisfied, which we love to hear. If you've been somewhat dissatisfied, we still would love to hear from you and tell us why. And if we're doing something well, we'd love to hear that too. So back to the audience questions. We have a healthcare question from a caller. This is Christina. Christina, you are live.
Christina?
Hello, Christina.
I apologize. I actually have several questions here, and I have MS, so I'm sorry if I'm not speaking clearly.
We can hear you.
My first question is, during the pandemic, I noticed a lot of parents in my neighborhood. I noticed they have small children, and I don't think that they were very aware of your program. I know several speak different languages, as 32 different languages are spoken in my immediate area, which I learned when they had a tuberculosis outbreak at my son's school and needed to have interpreters to help the parents understand. Is there a way that you all can be able to advertise the WIC more inside of the schools? I've seen the way some of the children are quite overweight, and maybe some of the parents need education with nutrition and some availability for formula for their babies. I don't know if there's a way for that to be better advertised.
I do believe that, and again, I am not I don't work for the health department, so I don't know all the details of how they advertise and so on. I know that they have a nutritional program. I know that they have a mothers and infant kind of nutritional program. But sorry, I've got a little allergy or something this morning. this evening. And I know that they have the ability to translate in a number of languages. But I think it's wonderful that you noticed and that you care. And I wonder at some point if you could transfer that information to the health department and just say at whatever school it is, Sunshine School, there's a lot of people here who don't seem to, speak English very well, and they could use some nutritional information and so on. I think that would be a really great service that you could provide for them. I don't, when we do the larger town hall, if we have somebody from the health department, they might be able to answer exactly how they reach into the schools. But I know they have those programs, and I know they do them in different languages. But your point is well taken. I think you're right. Advertisement would be helpful.
And we know that Aurora in particular has pretty robust translations because of the diversity in Aurora. So if the school district is anywhere near there, I would think they'd be receptive to that. Christina, did you have another question as well?
Yes, I actually have a couple. So actually, most importantly, I experienced something very traumatic with my son. His perpetrator escaped from jail, from the hospital, Parkway Adventist, if I'm not mistaken, and someone else had escaped from there as well in the past, just to share. I had already shared my concerns at one time with a councilman that visited Utah Park. I'd like to know, there was no Amber Alert initially shared at all for my son. This man escaped from jail. They did more than one wrong thing. They wanted to follow the perpetrator when he escaped to the skate park, my son, to be able to capture him. Instead, my son disappeared while 20 officers at least were in my front yard. I just would like to know what can be done in regards to the Amber Alert. Can police be properly trained better if a child is ran away or missing, or especially been, I don't know, potentially taken by a convict that escaped from jail?
Again, it sounds like a very frightening experience, and just pretty scary. I think this is, again, something for the police department or the sheriff's department. And I think calling them and asking for an explanation and telling them your story is about all we can do. The commissioners cannot tell the sheriff or the police what to do or anything like that, so we have no jurisdiction over them. But my advice would be to call them and talk to them.
Yeah.
And if not, then if you send a message to Luke at was it communications at arapahoegov.com?
Yeah, communications.
Thank you, because my network is broken. They did not even have a call to me when this man escaped. And then the chief of the sheriff people, that man was Peter, and he came after my son was gone. So I just think that it just needs to be more proactive and productive, like I've said on the news when the TB incident happened with Kathy Walsh. It just needs to be. I had to go so forth to being, I had to advertise my son all over the Nextdoor app. I contacted every news outlet that I could. I just can't share with you enough of, so I will do that. I will reach out. I'll have to get someone to help me write it up. I do have one more question. Do you think the health department might be able to help with, I know this is, again, part of the health department, but I'm a part of the Consumer Direct program. I am disabled. I had cancer as a child, and I just didn't want strangers touching me. So my husband quit his job, and he takes care of me full time. So what happens, in this situation, exactly what happened with my son? I don't trust strangers. I don't want anyone in my house. Because of my disability, I've had a hard time with being my own authorized representative. Do you think the health department could help with something like that? Or maybe it could be like my friend that's in Wyoming, the person that's in the and the Department of Human Services, with her home health care director, they pass it forward. They're her authorized representative. It's just broken because I don't know. I can't be the only one that especially didn't meet anybody during COVID or anything, and I just don't trust anybody,
Yeah, it's a scary time, and it's hard to know what to do. So, the reason I was kind of moving around here is I was looking for my little card that has the crisis line number on it. But I will get that to you, and we'll make sure that you get the crisis line number so that if you have an incident like this, you can call them and they can give you professional advice.
Yeah, and I've captured Christina's name and phone number.
I'm not a kid. Pardon? Go ahead, Luke.
I've got Christina's name and phone number, so we can follow up with her offline.
I think that would be the best, if that's okay with you, Christine. We'll get back to you with some recommendations.
Excellent.
Thank you for calling. Take care.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but we can at least point you to the right people. So, and that's true of anyone. If you have a question or a problem that we don't necessarily deal with, we can always refer you to the people that can. So feel free to call in with that. Let's see. We have time for a couple more questions here. Again, if you want to ask a question to the commissioner on the phone, dial *3. Or if you want to type it into the comments box online, you can do that as well. We do have a question here. Can you tell us this is off topic from the health department, but can you tell us what's happening with the Potter's Church area in 4 Square Mile? And if you can't, I can. Okay.
Okay, I'll start off because I went to a virtual meeting the other night about the dog park. So there is going to be a park on that western side. And no matter what the development, because I haven't heard, commissioners will have a public hearing when in due time. But the Potter's Church has been sold, and so the only thing that I know for sure, then I'll let Luke explain what he knows, is that there will be a really nice park on the western side there with some trails and some playground and a dog park. So one little park for little dogs and a larger park for bigger dogs, and so it looks like it'll be a nice amenity for the neighborhood. And Luke, so what do you know?
So we are going to have a public meeting about this next week, or 2 weeks from now, I guess, February 15th. That will be at 6:30 p.m. and it's at the Lima Plaza offices in Centennial. And there's also a way to submit public comments before Wednesday, February 9th, and register to attend that meeting if you want to. You can do that on our website, arapahoegov.com. Go to the Public Works section, and you can see the information there. What we know so far is that the proposed plans call for about 345 apartment units and 168 homes, in addition to the park that the commissioner just mentioned. So that's all coming to fruition as we speak. So over the next couple of weeks, you'll have an opportunity to chime in about that and make your feelings known about how you hope that it will go. So
we have not heard anything. So that has not been passed. So those are some kind of proposals that have not even been decided on yet. So
and the opportunity to provide feedback is about those plans that have not been finalized. So, okay. You mentioned in the course of the presentation about wanting to be innovative with this new public health department. This certainly is an opportunity as we go to a single county model to possibly, get creative with it in an effective way that is fiscally responsible, but provides services maybe in a better way that they have been in the past. Have you seen any examples yet of innovation that seem appealing or seem worth looking into more?
Well, I think it was Christina brought up some things that I think are really important. There's 2 concepts here. One is public health is about prevention.
Right.
So if we can work with the schools, for example, as Christina kind of, maybe it was a different color, I'm sorry, but at any rate, if we can work with the schools and help families with good health care, we can do a whole lot of prevention. And I think that is really can be very innovative. And then the other thing I'm thinking of is that we have an incredibly diverse county. When I think about ranchers out on the Eastern Plains and people in the tech center, we've got people from 120 or more different countries that live in our county. We've got kids, we've got old people, we've got everything and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we make a health department that is responsive to the needs of such a diverse constituency? And I think there's a great spot for innovation in that concept of, not everybody needs every service, who needs what, and doing a really good assessment and outreach.
Right. It's been clear from before the pandemic, probably very few people thought much about what public health departments do, but now we all know what they do. And it certainly is an opportunity, like you mentioned, with our really unprecedented diversity of citizenry in our county, probably more than any other county in the state, I would think.
Yeah.
To do something really different and unique that serves us well.
Mm-hmm.
So before we wrap up, the folks on the call may not realize that you are in the last year of your term limited tenure as a Arapahoe County Commissioner. So I'm going to ask you a two-part question. Number one is, what sort of things are you hoping to achieve this year? And number two is, what are you most proud of during your 12 years with the county, or 11 plus years?
So I wasn't prepared for this, but this year we read that laundry list of things that we have to do. And so, just keeping, as my son's piano teacher said, a steady pace and making sure that we are covering all the bases, mixed metaphor, covering all the bases and making sure that we get these really important things done. And the pandemic has just thrown everybody for a loop, but we still have to keep going and take care of the needs of our residents. So that's what we need to do this year. And then I'm really proud of a couple things. One of them is some work that we've done in the judicial system in trying to help those with mental illness get services rather than stay in jail. People don't get better in jail, and they just come right back. So how do we reduce recidivism? How do we give people what they need so that they don't keep coming back to jail? So there's an awful lot of folks in our jail now with mental health problems, and so that's one of the things that I'm most proud of is working with lots of people in our judicial system to try and get folks diverted, get them into problem-solving courts, and get them back on their feet and ready to go and be, live their lives. So I'm proud of that, and we've done some good things in the last couple of years. I'm proud of that work we've done with homeless folks. I'm proud of the work that we've done getting apprenticeships up and running in our workforce council. There's a lot of work that we've been doing, and I'm most proud of having the opportunity to work with the incredible staff, the incredible people that work in Arapahoe County. There's some really fine people. So.
Excellent. Well, there's a lot more work to do this year, and we will see a lot of you virtually and in person. So thank you to all of you for tuning in tonight. Like I mentioned, this recording of this event will be available within about 24 hours on our website at arapahoegov.com/town hall. And we look forward to seeing all of you again at the end of March for the countywide health department update. And tune in to see Commissioner Jackson over the next 3 quarters as she gives updates to her district.
Thank you all, and thank you, Luke. Please, if you do have questions or comments, please let us know. We can't change things unless we know what they are. And if you have a nice thing to say, that's okay too.
We never say no to that.
Stay
Thank you
safe,
very much.
stay healthy, stay warm. Take care. Good night.